Hey, everybody, this is Perch, and we have the solicitations for September coming up here shortly for Marvel. We've already done DC. But we're specifically going to talk about Miles Morales because Miles Morales will be celebrating his 10th anniversary. Now, just for a moment, pause and kind of think back, if you will, it seems like it's been longer than 10 years, hasn't it? It does to me. I think Miles Morales first appeared back in Ultimate Fallout number 4, which, by the way, in September, they are putting the Facsimile edition out there. That was a Brian Michael Bendis, John Hickman, and Nick Spencer. What a team. With Sarah Pichelli on specifically the part we're talking about, which is Peter Parker has died. They would later kind of somewhat come back to life, sort of. But Miles Morales basically steps up as the new Spider-Man, although, you get a nice origin story for him. In terms of, it's at least worth mentioning that one of the big complaints that you hear about online is this idea of either gender or racially swapping characters. But you didn't hear a lot of complaints about that with Miles. And I think there's two reasons for that. The first is this happened 10 years ago, and a lot happened since. Really around 5-6 years ago, they kind of accelerated switching out a lot of legacy characters. But I think the bigger reason why you don't hear a lot of complaints about Miles is he was given a proper kind of origin, and Peter Parker had a story conclusion. He fought and died in a heroic sacrifice. There was a lot of pieces to it, and also it was the Ultimate Universe, so it wasn't the quote unquote true Marvel universe. So it was a little bit easier to switch out characters. But the storytelling was such that both Peter Parker kind of earned his death or retirement, based on how you want to put it, and Miles Morales earned his new identity. Bendis at the time, it's a little bit weird to think about, like 10 years ago, Bendis was I don't know if loved is the right word, but close to it. He was definitely somebody that had more hits than misses, and his name didn't provoke this almost immediate gut reaction against him. It was quite the opposite. Bendis was a huge selling point for a book. And so Bendis being on Miles Morales Spider-Man, they took their time kind of building the character, having the secret identity. It was some new stuff to play with. And while I'm sure if you dug through it, you'd find a handful of people who complained, it was insignificant compared to what you saw, say, several years later when Bendis again did the same thing with Riri Williams and Iron Man. So Miles Morales, in general, if you can go back in time 10 years, it was generally accepted. But we are getting this 10th anniversary comic, and we're getting a ton of variant covers through the month of September as well. And this comic is going to feature current writer Saladin Ahmed and current artist Carmen Canero. And it will also feature stories by Phil Lord, Chris Miller, Kemp Powers, and more. A lot of speculation that Brian Michael Bendis, who's no longer a DC exclusive, will come back to do a story here and kind of dip back into his creation. They're saying there's some surprises, kind of hint, but we don't know what that is. We do know that Sarah Pichelli is going to come back and do a story for this as well, and I think has done the cover for at least one of the covers that they're doing. But the other piece of the news is that they're going to debut a new costume, and the new costume, which you should be able to see on your screen now, it's a costume. It is heavily inspired, clearly, from the Clone Saga and kind of the fallout of that. Kane, if you remember that, had a scarlet spider costume, and this definitely has a similar feel to it. It is, I'll just say off the bat, I doubt this costume is going to stick. For a number of reasons. I don't think this is going to be kind of the permanent costume. This feels still like they're leaning into nostalgia. They're leaning into Clone Saga. They've got that kind of half crop hoodie going on. It's an odd costume. We have one image of it. It's the image you're seeing on the screen. So there's a good chance this costume looks a lot better under different hands, and maybe we'll see. But I tend to think like, kind of the socks and tennis shoes look. It's just not as iconic and cool as we saw from Enter the Spider-Verse, and the Miles Morales costume we're a bit more used to seeing. But maybe it will catch. I don't know. The question becomes, it goes to this idea of legacy. There's this desire that people have, like Miles Morales should be his own character. And I agree. I don't think it does Miles Morales any favors to be kind of the other Spider-Man. I think that holds a character back from having his own identity, from a purely commercial financial standpoint. Being another Spider-Man is going to limit the amount of money you're going to make off toys and merchandise and other things. You can sell it, but it would certainly be better if we had two separate Spider-Man and then a Miles Morales completely separate thing that you could then market and push. When you have them kind of merged under one Spider-Man branch, you are leaving some money on the table. So I think it would be better if he stood alone on his own identity. They've toyed with having a new name from time to time. But nothing that's really stuck. And, hopefully some of this is going to kind of trying to define his identity. That's going to be harder now that you do have, bluntly, is, comic fans may hate to hear it, but the Into the Spider-Verse movie is what most people know Miles Morales from. And that's where their mind's going to go when they think of Miles Morales. And the Miles Morales that was introduced in that film is one with the classic kind of black and red, not classic, but classic for Miles anyway. This costume that, looks very iconic, looks like something that, animates well. And that's how most people are going to think of him. I guess. So I'm torn with this. On one hand, I'm glad for people to start carving out their own identities for these characters and making them look very visually unique. And even though, yes, this does look a lot like Kane, it does, you would not confuse the Peter Parker classic version of Spider-Man with this Miles Morales version of Spider-Man. There'd be no mistaking that you've got two very different characters here with this costume. But on the other hand, this costume, for me, personal opinion, it doesn't look great. It looks kind of like his original costume's in the wash, and he's basically grabbed some clothes from the hamper and kind of thrown it on to fight crime. It feels like that kind of original Peter Parker costume when he was like sewing together jogging pants to go wrestle in. That's what this kind of looks like. So, I have a really hard time believing this sticks, but maybe it does. So on one hand, hey, cool. They're doing more to kind of establish this character in their own identity and push forward with with something that can stand on its own. Cool. On the other hand, look, again, my own personal opinion. Yikes! This is a hell of a thing. Anyway, I'm curious to see your comments I'm going to learn very quickly. Are people going to have the reaction I do, like what the hell, or are they going to be like you clearly you're crazy. You're not in touch with the youth of America, and this is what people want. They want baggy sweatpants looking. Sure. Why not? Anyway, it is, like I said, 10th anniversary of Miles Morales. It's very hard to, like I said, it feels way longer than that. It's only been 10 years since they introduced this character. It just goes to show kind of in the last 10 years how thoroughly the Marvel Universe has altered, changed, and how they've really been modifying their IP. This issue, 40 pages, so it's an anniversary issue, but 40 pages, a little bit less than double. $4.99, which is nice, right? It's expensive, but 40 pages. I've seen 40 pages at Marvel cost way more than $4.99, so that's good for them. I think there's some 32-page comics that Marvel's putting out that is $4.99, but maybe not. Anyway, are you buying this? Are you into it? What do you think? What's your take? Should they continue to kind of change Miles? Should they give him a completely new identity, a new name, new costume? Should they divorce him more from Spider-Man, or should they lean into it? Like, what would you do? You're running Marvel. You're head of editorial. You're the writer. How do you take a character that has gotten some pretty good acceptance And how do you push them farther? Is this the way you do it? Is this look, this feel the way you do it? I don't think so. But anyway, you tell me. Like and subscribe, of course, as always. And most importantly, thanks for listening.